Welcome to our backyard here in southeast Michigan. I'm Dr. Russ, and as you can see, we've got some unusual targets today. Far more than just tomatoes, by the way. I think we're shooting some watermelon, cantaloupe, pumpkin, apples, you name it, all in preparation for this big holiday coming, Halloween. But we're going to start with these ripe tomatoes. Oh, look at this. We got one of the souvenirs left over from last year. Well, this guy was tough to kill, and he obviously ran off without his head. But when we're over today, you're going to know a lot of tricks about shooting crazy, scary critters here on Halloween. You're even going to find out how to find out if there's really a ghost there. That tip's coming up. But we're going to start off with tomatoes because their skin is a lot like zombie skin. Not much to it. And we're going to shoot these with 3 tomatoes. We'll shoot them with 3 air guns, all in .22 caliber. I think the Humorex, the Vectus, and one other. We'll pick 3 .22s to shoot these. It is a scary time. You can see some scary skeletons here. I think this might have come out of a James Bond movie. For getting there early or something, I think. We've got a couple targets, but these are our real targets right here. We're going to try to shoot these tomatoes first. Our goal today is to get rid of a lot of myths about Halloween. And for this first target practice, we'll be using the Gamo 22, a Gauntlet 22, and a Vectus 22, all in an effort to shoot those tomatoes down there. Tomatoes with a soft skin, kind of like what zombies and witches have. Let's see if we can do that. One tomato down. Two. And this Vectus. Well, I got those 3 tomatoes. Well, let's take a look at these tomatoes. When you're shooting .22, when you shoot any caliber, what you want is to either hit the head, an instant kill, and often because small critters, those heads are bobbing back and forth, you want to shoot the body. And if you shoot the body, you want a bullet to pass through both sides, if you will, so that we have 2 bleeding points. That way it doesn't run far, maybe 5 feet up the tree, who knows what, and then it falls. So we can see here with this first, I think, let's see, I shot the Vectus 22, and I shot a Gamo 22, a Maxim 22, and you can see we got right on through both sides of a rather large tomato. Same thing happened with all 3 of the .22 calibers I shot. We had nice pass-throughs with 2 skins and a lot of tomato in the middle as they entered and came out. When you use powder rifles, you stay away from the headshot because you typically want to mount it. But we don't do that with air guns, at least not at this day and time. And so we want a headshot to kill. It almost always is, even with 17 caliber. And then on the body, we want to pass through, so we have 2 bleeding points. Well, Halloween was really the combination of 3 holidays. There was the Celtic New Year, and that's really where they got their beginning, was in the Celtic or Irish areas of Europe, if you will. But it was also called All Saints' Day and it was also called the Day of the Dead. And what they were celebrating originally was that the summer was the growing season and it was coming to an end. And beginning was winter, and that was the season when all plant life died. And it was at this very moment they felt that they could communicate in some way with the underworld, people that were already dead. Well, that was a myth. And since they couldn't read or write, back in the 1600s, most of them couldn't, they decided to just embellish the stories, add them to their culture, and they came right on into our century, if you will. One good thing that came out of Halloween back then, comparatively speaking, was bobbing for apples. And what the girls did, and only the girls bobbed for apples in the beginning, though I remember as a kid I bobbed for a few myself, but they put a few marks in each apple that symbolized one boy or another. And by closing their eyes and going into a big wash bucket of water, they bobbed for apples and came up with the one they thought they just might marry. Well, let's take some air guns and put another myth to bed. You know, I like target practicing because as the lower barrel shoots a pellet higher and higher and the scope is level, they pass at about 30 yards, which is the range I'm shooting at now. The pellet then runs a couple of inches high and comes back down and crosses this straight line with the scope out around 60, 65, 70, 75 yards, depending on what caliber and what gun and how long that barrel is. So when you do it that way, you've really sighted your air gun in for two different ranges. It does help if you have a range meter that can look out and determine the distance. Well, this thing by Halo, an XRT, good for about 700 yards, cost about $110. I hate to think what it costs now. After the pandemic, everything's been going up. But I like to get exercise walking through the flea market. And this past week, I came across a Bushnell for $10. And this particular rangefinder, while it's an older one, this one's good for 1,500 yards. And I don't know if you can see 1,500 there, but it was really used in golf. And it was a little over the top, if you will, for 1,500 yards. But it sure helps when you're hunting and shooting in our backyard. Okay, we want to get rid of another Halloween myth. So let's take this Hatson 25 caliber bullpup. Believe it or not, it still has a barrel of about 20 inches. And that's what I want. Longer barrels with good twist in them, so they're accurate out there. Next, I'm gonna use this puncher breaker. Another bullpup, but the barrel's 20 inches long. And lastly, this Bullmaster. It's got the QE barrel, and in this case, I'm using a silencer, a suppressor called the Tatsu from Donnie FL. And boy, have I fallen in love with these suppressors. They help you hunt. They help you just when you're target practicing. Sometimes you're target practicing and some critter comes along. They haven't heard a thing. When it came to shooting these apples, I used 25 caliber. They're more consistent, a harder center core, and thicker skin. That first rifle was the Umrex 25 caliber, and you can see it did a nice pass through here, going in here, coming out over here. That dark area shows a whole bunch of ants have already gotten into this apple. The second one was a Bull Boss, and it's full of ants too. I'm not going to hold it long, but no problem passing through it. The third one was shot by the Gladius 25. I don't know that it's any more powerful than these first two, but there wasn't enough pieces of apple to find to bring up here and show you what the verdict was. But make no mistake, 25 caliber, probably my favorite caliber. It doesn't have any problem of going in one and having an exit hole too, knowing that destructive critter is not going to go far with 2 bleeding points. During Halloween, probably there's nothing more scary than a zombie, a female zombie at that. I'm told that they're very tough to kill. So are cantaloupe. So let's find out just how easy it is to put this myth to rest. I actually have 2 Hatson Bull Bosses. I said Bull Master a little while ago. Between Bully and Bull Pup and the Bull Boss, I called it a Bull Master, but the Woodstock that I shot a while ago was the Bull Boss. This is the one in the poly stock, and we'll see what it can do in 25 caliber to that cantaloupe. Well, I hit it, but it didn't move much. Well, that got it. Our third target was a cantaloupe, a real tough, hard cantaloupe. And we only shot it with 2 air guns, a Hatson AT-44 long and 25 caliber, and also the Hatson Bull Boss, or rather a Bull Pup, both shooting 25 caliber. Well, not sure which way they went in, but both came out, neither one 25 caliber having any trouble. A short Bull Pup, well, it looks short, but that barrel's still 20 inches long. And the Gladius AT-44, I think that barrel's 21 inches long. And they didn't have any trouble getting right through both sides of this cantaloupe. Back in those days, with people not being able to read or write, a part of them wanted to try to communicate with the dead. The other part wanted to stay away from the dead. So that's where costumes came into Halloween. And they began to throw hides over their bodies to hide from the zombies, etc., hoping that they would think that they too were from the dead. Wearing a dead skin would be an argument. So we had half talking and half hiding. And this is where our costumes came, and this is where werewolves came from. And the myths just continued to grow and grow. Well, along with that came vultures. And we've got a couple here now. So it's obvious that the bodies are beginning to pile up. Nonetheless, I thought maybe a watermelon would represent just how hard it is to kill a wolf or a werewolf with that thick skin. Well, when we go after tougher critters like werewolves, we need at least a 357, and that's what this bully is right here, a 357. In fact, you can see those large slugs right in here, and we'll see what it does to that watermelon. Blew it apart. Well, I think if you look down the hill, you see why there's no watermelon sitting here. We had a Hatson bully in a 357 caliber just blow that watermelon to bits. There wasn't enough to bring up here to show you. But that 357 has a whole lot more energy, good speed. I like the 357. I'm not real happy with the 30 caliber. I know a number of our viewers have the 30 caliber, but by now you probably know why I don't have a 30, nor do I shoot a 30. Always opting for either the 25 or the 357. And the answer is that 30 is hard ammunition to come by, particularly now during this pandemic with a shortage of all types of ammunition. But if you go on any of the big mail order places, you'll find probably 40 or 50 flavors of 357, also referred to as 35, also referred to as 9mm, and probably only 15 or 20 versions of 30 caliber. So you just get a lot more ammunition options with the 335. That's why I've always opted for that. Nonetheless, that 357 had no trouble taking care of this watermelon. In one side, out the other, and parts everywhere. You know, a lot of people wonder, how in the world did pumpkins get into the Halloween scene? There's certainly happy pumpkins and there's ugly pumpkins, etc. And pumpkins actually entered the scene last. It all had to do something with the fact that pumpkins come to harvest late in the summer. September, for example. They start putting them up for sale for a November Thanksgiving pumpkin pie. And since they're sitting around waiting for that last Thursday in Thanksgiving, in November for Thanksgiving, people begin to wonder, what shall we do with these? And they just kind of got pushed right on into Thanksgiving. Boy, they've got a tough core on both sides. What shall I shoot this one with? Oh, I think I've got just the answer. Let's go up on the shooting deck. I'll show it to you. Well, this is what I think I'll take out that pumpkin with. A Hatson Blitz. My second Hatson Blitz. For those of you who follow all of our videos, you'll see that I was very unhappy with the first one, and I sent it back. I was very happy with what I got in its place, and that was a Hatson Invader semi-auto. But I found a factory down there, not the factory, but the factory outlet mall in Florida. Had one in a refurbished style in my favorite caliber, 25. And so I got it. And this one works. Well, that Hatson Blitz in 25 caliber, it didn't have any trouble entering and going through this pumpkin and coming out too, both sides, which is what I ask for when I'm hunting, what we call a pass-through of an arrow, a bullet, a pellet that can give us two places for a destructive critter to get through. Well, I hope you like that Blitz and what it can do. Now, there's one last thing. I promised a tip on how you could find out if there's any ghost around your house. And that's next. Well, I promised you a tip on how you could find out if you've got ghost around your place. I don't have ghost, but that doesn't mean you don't think you do. And one of the ways we can find out if you have a ghost or not is with a 2-liter bottle full of flour or baby powder, something down here that will explode using these Umarex pressure caps. And you can put them around your house. When you think there's a ghost, just shoot it and it will put white powder all over that gremlin, if you will, this tree, etc. We'll find out if it works. Okay, we're going to find out if a 2-liter bottle full of high-pressure air, 85 pounds by the way, with an Umarex cap on it tight, can be shot and put powder everywhere, including on an invisible ghost. Are you ready for this? Well, one serious message I'd like for you to remember as Halloween comes up, and that's that there's a lot of innocent young kids out there, and all they want is some candy. And give them that, not the treat. Rather, not the trick, but the treat. And then watch over them. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't some monsters out there on Halloween. There are. Let me describe them to you. This is for real. There's some monsters out there who like to stick pins and needles and things into candy. So we've got to check what these kids bring home and make sure it doesn't have anything dangerous in them. And then seeing this big bowl of candy reminds me when my kids came back, I'd go through it, and my favorite was always the Snickers. So we separated those, and then I've had to pay my daughters for the Snickers. So let's get ready for Halloween the right way, watching after the real people that need to be watched after, and enjoy it. Dr. Paula, isn't there more than one Snicker in this bag?
No, that's it.
Hey, I found an Almond Joy. You're forgiven. And by the way, if you found some value in today's video presentation, ending the myths of Halloween, give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to write more about your experience, send me a comment. I answer them all. And lastly, thank you for just viewing our videos. We've got 55 of them out. We have over 6,000 subscribers from all over the world, and almost 400,000 people who viewed them. Kind of a humbling experience. Thank you.